have made the best artwork of the century so far. What does it feel like?
Well, it definitely was not the best artwork of the century. It was just like a fun survey that The Guardian did, and there they choose the visitors as the best, which was just like a lot of fun that they did and an honor. And I mean, it's not the best. It's just something that some critics said, but and bless them for that, and thanks to them. But it was like I was so proud when this came out because it was like after when 2020 came, it was like the first 20 artworks of the first 20 years of the 21st century.
Do you remember the times when you are making the visitors? Tell us a few things about it. Things you have top of mind.
It was just really an awesome time with many of my best friends in this fantastic place, Rokeby farm, upstate New York, which like are really my good friends too, who live there. And it was just this. It was really like a kind of week in kind of very, kind of week in Elysian fields.
Why did you name the project after ABBA's final album?
It was just like the classic thing. You do a piece and then like, oh, what do you call it? And often I just go through my record collection and steal some names from records. And I've always been an ABBA fan, and I just remember looking at that record like, this feels like a good name for this piece. And in a way, kind of a homage to this kind of ABBA's up, because The Visitors is really a cool ABBA record. It's like their kind of it's like their new wave record. You know, it's like a really it's kind of indie ABBA. So and a lot of love and loss on it.
Okay, so how did you decide who took which role in this project?
It was just it was very simple. I mean, it was a portrait of my friends who are all fantastic musicians, and it was like obvious for Dotti, who is a drummer, who like he should play the drums, and then for it, and we just discussed like who like to play, and that sort of kind of became very organic, because like the people in that piece, they've been collaborators of mine, since childhood, and we're still doing things together, and so it was not really like you should do this, you should do that. It was just like it was kind of there's a scene that was set and we just played in it. Yeah.
How does the public react to your art?
And just in very various ways, like it should. It's like I have never any expectations about how public reacts to my work, and I always just want it to be very free and clear, and like that people. I have sometimes they really care and are very intense about works, and sometimes they don't care, which like is totally fair too. So that's also the great thing about visual art, is that you just do it, and people like it or don't like it, and they are both are totally right.
In your opinion, how art can change the society we live in as a way of expression?
Art is like always. It's hard to say if art changes society, but it does. I mean, it does in these mysterious ways. I think really, if you look at art and feel artworks, and I don't think you, like, as an artist, you it's like I would never go and like, I am gonna do this work to make a better world. No, but but like you. As an art viewer, I feel I become maybe a bit better person with looking at art. That it like teaches me a lot about empathy and like realizing the human state, etc. And I think that is important to make a better society. So like art from its beginnings is always about kind of pathos and empathy and feeling for the suffering of the world. And you really get that a lot through art.
Okay, do you think that social life itself can be a state aspiring to art, or something like aesthetic bliss?
just the social state of like being alive in the world. I think it's always aspiring for art. You know, I mean, I think constant bliss would just be a freaking nightmare. And so this kind of aspiring for the artistic state is what I as an artist, and also just like as somebody who just likes the poetry of life, and people don't need to be artists to do that. I mean, it just makes life more bearable to be able to appreciate, you know, a sunlight coming through a window, etc. That like this poetic experience, like these artistic aspirations we have as human beings, they really create beauty in our lives, and weirdly we're always striving for. I'm not talking about like this kind. Not talking about cosmetic beauty, but like the poetic beauty of life itself.
How would you describe the No Tomorrow project? What did you want to express through this project?
No Tomorrow is really a piece where dance and music actually come together. It's really an opus of music done by dancers. So it's done in collaboration with Bryce Dessner and Margrét Bjarnadóttir, where Bryce wrote music for Dancer of the Icelandic Dance Company, and Margrét choreographed it, and we, the three of us, worked on it very intensely together and also with the dancers, to create a piece where every movement was musical. And it's sort of this kind of play with, it's always like, I think as an artist, you're always trying to kind of, in each piece, you're almost like trying to invent a new art form very often. And this was like, you know, this is like, I have never seen this, a ballet with a musical opus played by the dancers. And and Bryce deliberately wrote it so that like musicians could not play it. It's really music that dancers can only play because of their really complex minds about counting and feeling of body and stuff like so. So if you move a guitar in a certain way, the music changes like whoa. So it was really, and when we were doing it, it was like we did it a few years ago, like when the world started to turn like really friggin' dark, you know, just after Trump got elected and stuff. So then it was almost this to try to do this piece which was about nothing, and this kind of state of nothingness. And I think we managed to make a piece which was really on nothingness. And then it's sort of like, the piece is very much like kind of country music meets Stockhausen, very kind of avant-garde music meets very kind of basic folk music, country stuff. So yeah, those I hope that answers the question.
Do you believe in the immortality of art?
I mean, I believe in immortality of art. Yeah. I mean, I don't believe in the immortality of anything. I mean, everything will always end somehow. I mean, we all just get sucked into a black hole at the end of everything. So, but art lives on and maybe does not live on. It like, for me as an artist, it doesn't matter if it lives on or not. It's just maybe it will. Like, my favorite legacy is like my great grandmother. She was a vagabond and wrote and basically made one love song. She just like sang it and wrote it herself. Never published anything. There's no statue of her. But everyone in Iceland knows her poetry.
What would be the message of your art that you would like to transcend in time, in future?
I really don't know what my message is. And if I knew, I think I wouldn't do this. Because the mystic about art is like I never do an artwork which I really totally understand myself. And I mean, maybe there is this thing that kind of goes through it all about like that it's beautiful and sad to be a human being. maybe that's something that kind of runs through a lot of the pieces. But there's really kind of no message. I mean, there is a message, but the art just creates it itself. It's like beyond my words.
For the guilt and fear installation, which is the greatest role of these two emotions?
It was very simple. Like, it was just like, I thought, like, guilt is the salt of earth and fear is the pepper of life. It's just like these really unpleasant feelings that keep us going in a very bad way, but also in a good way. I think it's also like our moral compass, and in many ways we become better being human beings through guilt and fear at the same time. So I find it an interesting thing, and I started thinking a lot about guilt and fear in recent times, after like this kind of reckoning that has been kind of coming over the Western world after Me Too and Black Lives Matter, and like all this like idea of kind of looking at our morals in a new way, and then I just realized I was just realizing how soaked everything was in guilt and fear, and I just found it interesting that suddenly it felt almost like 18th century, like Catholic, everything.
And for this project, I want to tell me where did you get 1,000 porcelain cells and paper shakers from?
So I did them in collaboration with Marlies Kroijmans at the Fabriek Ceramiek in Eindhoven, in the Netherlands. So and that's it's Fabriek Ceramiek has a tradition of working a lot with artists, but also like the Netherlands has this great tradition of porcelain, and I find porcelain, white porcelain, an interesting material, because it has like this kind of stately, almost oppressive aura around it. It's like it's very neat, but it always feels very kind of colonial, and it's still it's basically a method that like Europeans stole from China, and then it changed. Like when Europeans realized to use it, it really changed diplomacy in Europe, and I just find it a super interesting material in how it's really like the material of soft power in many ways, and so that's also why I found it was interesting that it was like this white porcelain with Delft blue.
Which was your first piece of art you have made?
The first piece of art I made? Good question. Yeah, I mean, of course, like I made a lot of pieces, and like the first piece, you're like, okay, this is a piece of art, because suddenly it happens. Like it happens to me a lot. Now I'm in my studio, I make a lot of stuff, and a lot of the stuff is just like, this is not a piece of art, and it just goes into the bin. I think maybe the first piece of art I made was when I was in art school, and I was just it was a video of me being a cowboy singing "The Sweetest Girl Has Left Me" on a loop, and I discovered something in it, and it felt like, oh, this is an interesting artwork.
That's very nice. You said you like cliches. Why is that? Why cliches bring to your art?
I'm in awe of the cliche, and what cliche, they have all this like cultural data within them, like, and like, you know, the cliche are these fantastic things we humans likes, but also they're like culturally oppressive, and they really tell a huge story. And I think I got it, like a friend of mine, my mentor, Magnus Sigurðsson, artist, once made an art piece where he's naked with a cigar and a finger up his butt, and it's called "The Cliché is the Ultimate Expression." And he was really like beautifully playing with the idea of like the avant-garde artist in a very kind of funny twist. And that piece really got me into thinking much more about the cliché and what is in them. And the piece that we're showing here now in Bucharest, which is Bliss, is really kind of about one of these ultimate clichés of Western culture, which is the marriage of Figaro, this great opera by Mozart, and this greatest moment in the opera. It's a cliche, but it's so awesome. And I'd really like to look at it almost like through a microscope with repetition, and kind of understand what is in that cliche. What is it that is so enchanting, and yet also troubling.
Your art requires endurance and is often accompanied by physical or mental difficulty. Do you think that's a necessary part of your practice, and why?
I mean, I think the works are endurance. They are, long repetition and long. Many of them are like this kind of. You go on a kind of in some kind of hardship, and it's very much derived from from the ideas of Marina Abramovic and also Chris Burton and this kind of hardcore 1970s endurance art. But maybe I approach it in a different way, that I don't really look at these performances as they're almost like an escape from reality. Like when you're in the performances, that's also, I started performing them alone. And then I, started asking my family to be in them, and then I started asking friends, and then just now I'm working with people. I just meet them sometimes for the first time when we work together, because I realized that there is something that it is not really. I mean, it is physical endurance and hardship, but it's it's like walking up a mountain. There's something really great that happens. It's also bliss. So it's not just about the hardship. I think life itself is much harder than just doing a performance artwork.
Yes, it requires endurance too. You said in an old interview that you see little difference between an audience person experiencing one of your works for 6 hours or 2 minutes. Why is endurance a precondition for the performer, but not for the audience?
Because it's almost like this thing that because I like the idea that you do these things for a long time and gonna go through this hardship, but I don't want to ask that of the audience, because I almost think that's too much to ask. Because I'm raised in the theater where people are locked up in a room for a few hours to see an artwork, and they can go out, but you're locked in it and you have to watch it all. And there's just something about the freedom of just looking at a painting or a sculpture, which I really love. Or just you open a book and close it again. That the artwork is there, accessible, but you are free. You are not bound by any constraints while you're looking at it. And I really like that.
Why did you choose to bring the Bliss project to Bucharest?
Yeah, well, we were thinking about pieces to bring here and to show here, and in many ways because it was sort of also like an introduction to the art I make. I thought a lot of key components in my art come together in Bliss. It's like this kind of longing for beauty, and kind of looking at deconstructing our Western culture, and deconstructing these kind of ideas of oppressive patriarchy, etc. And then just frivolity and silliness at the same time, and of course performative endurance, etc. It's it's all there in this piece. So I thought it was a very and also just in my imagination, Bucharest was this place which it actually sort of is similar, but better than I imagined it. It's I just felt something right about showing Bliss in Bucharest, in this in all these adventurous streets. You come into this space and see this rococo frivolity going on forever.
How do you recommend it to the public to see Bliss? In which manner?
I think it's really nice. I mean, I would just say, like, however you want to, just come and pick and just stay. But it's actually really nice to come twice. It's actually really nice to see it, in the beginning, and then it's really nice to see it towards the end. There's something quite strange that happens around the end of it. It's kind of all this energy of the performance that has been building up for 12 hours just suddenly sort of explodes a little in the end. But just a little.
Where do you find inspiration from?
I find inspiration all over, just a lot from life itself and just like from other artworks, a lot. I, steal or inspired constantly. It's just like I think art actually is probably more inspiring for me than like nature or art and also this, I mean, often I just make pieces out of conversations I have with people and like, I just have like I'm now making a piece in the Louisiana in Copenhagen, which came after an argument I had where I was having an argument with my wife, and she said this beautiful sentence like, "I hope this is not an epic waste of love and understanding." And I was just like, whoa, such a gorgeous sentence. And then now I'm making this piece called "Epic Waste of Love and Understanding." So it's just like all from life, like goes into the machine and then becomes art. Yeah.
And the final question, what do you know about Romania?
I know, way too little about Romania. And of course, like, I was just like, as any kid, I was like 13 in 1989, like, then like the whole kind of, the revolution in Romania and like the fall of Ceausescu just had this like huge impact. It's a country that has gone through a lot of shit. I mean, that I know. Like really, really oppressive bullshit for way too long. And it's now really becoming very free and culturally interesting and like thriving with free speech and free thinking. And you really just like feel it on the streets here. And it's really like this manifestation of like a good society where people can say what they think, and that is just happening, and you just can like sense it that like culture is really like rising here.
And do you think that Romania can be inspiring?
Yeah, I'm at least very inspired here, and I'm like this. There's a sense of something good going on, and yeah, I'm just thrilled to be here, and I mean, in many ways it has a similarity to Iceland as being a bit isolated, strange country that has been through like been ruled by others and like is finding its foot in the world, and yeah, it's like Bucharest is such a wonderful place, and they're actually really magical. I'm having a kind of, I'm having this similar feeling as when I went to New Orleans in the States. It's like something is awesome here.